So we're here for your DEQ Online Underground Injection Control Submittals. My name is Margaret Gardner. I'm the Your DEQ Online project change manager, because this is a really big change, not only for us at DEQ, but also for all the people we work with in the state of Oregon. Also, I'm the Your DEQ Online trainer, and Melissa Kays is our DEQ information coordinator. Her specialty is water quality, so we're excited to have her here today for this particular training. Derek Sandos is our UIC program coordinator for the UIC program. So we have great people in the room to help me answer questions. Our focus is on your DEQ Online and how to use the system. And our focus is not necessarily on the technical aspects of the requirements of the submittals for UIC. That is something that Derek would be able to work with you on offline or outside of this webinar. We'll focus here on how to walk through the system to do what you typically do to submit, to process submittals for UIC. So, first of all, the topics for today are, we'll do a little introduction to give an idea of what this means for UIC to move into your DEQ Online. We'll talk about the submittal process. We'll get started, how to get one started, how to track the status, and that includes seeing a completed one from DEQ side. When we do our work, then it shows up on your side in this cloud-based system. And then also what's involved in making changes. We'll also talk about training and support. So with any system like this, there's acclimating to really how the system works, how you navigate through the system. If you've worked in this system yet to set up your account, you might find that it's pretty familiar when you go to process a submittal. There's a similar logic, there's similar structure. A lot of the links are similar, or the little buttons or icons. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what your DEQ Online is. We review this in account registration training, so I'm not going to go into that level of depth, but I want to talk about it as it's relevant to UIC. So we talked in the account registration training about the importance of selecting your role. General public, consultant, responsible official. This is a very summarized version of what those accounts do. We also talked about how the responsible official, or we also call them the RO, needs to link to their consultants, or I'm sorry, to their facilities and submittal types, but also they need to link to their consultants and then extend those permissions that they have for their account to their consultants as they wish. So an RO doesn't have to have a consultant, but if they do, they need to set up those links. So choosing a role and getting the links established is probably the most distinctive thing about getting used to this new system. Otherwise, it's like signing up for any other system, walking through the screens, filling out the required fields, etc. So you can find the instructions for account registration on the Your DEQ Online help page. I might say this a lot. I've said it a lot in other trainings. If you type into your browser, that bar, the URL at the top, Your DEQ Online help .oregon.gov. How am I stumbling on that? I say it so many times. That will immediately take you, that's our short link, believe it or not, to our Your DEQ Online help page. That's where you're going to find links that take you to the account registration page and all these great resources that help you get through account registration. So what's changing for UIC and for the programs that are getting involved in this new system? What's different is there are more fee payment options. So I want to be careful to say we're not moving away from paper checks. You still can pay by check, but being able to pay online with ePay, which is that ACH ePay electronic payment, where you enter your payment information with a bank routing number, account number, that is a new option. And I'll tell you here that we don't have it listed here, but we're expecting that sometime early next year, we'll also be able to take credit cards. So we've really significantly made a change to be able to take electronic payments for the programs that participate in your DEQ Online. So what's changing though about paying with a paper check is paper checks no longer go to DEQ offices. And instead, they go with a submittal receipt by mail to a US bank lockbox. And all that information is on the submittal receipt. There's no mystery to it. When you acknowledge that you'll pay by check, at the end of the submittal, you get a submittal receipt. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The UIC submittals that are in the new system, I have a list of those here. This is what's included. Pretty much any submittals that would be related to UIC would be in your DEQ Online. There are no permits or rule authorized UICs that are outside of this system. Go through the system now. And the terminology that I want to make sure folks get familiar with, start to get comfortable with if you're not already, is ACH. That's something we're going to see in this system when it comes to payments. What it stands for is Automated Clearinghouse. Kind of, it's not helpful to know that necessarily. What is helpful to know is what it means is electronic funds transfer. So when you see the payment selections, you'll see ACH. Looks mysterious to my eyes because I'm not a banker, right? But I know that it's electronic funds transfer, and that's what makes the difference. Submittals. This is a term because so many programs are coming together at DEQ to use this one centralized system. Not all programs, but many programs. We are using more shared language and terminology, and submittals is now our catch-all term for any applications or forms or any entries, any renewals for permits, rule authorizations, reports, or other forms being submitted to DEQ, submittals. In this case, it's specifically electronic submittals, but anything that's incoming, we call it a submittal. Issuance, and that would be the outgoing. That would be what DEQ provides as a permit, a rule authorization, other completed work by DEQ. Amend is a term we're using to, it basically means to revise a project or revise a submittal. And then facility, now with UIC, I'm not sure because every program's a little bit different. Some like to use project site, some like to use facility, some typically use company or other entity. There's so many ways to call where the place is, where the action is happening, or where the home facility is, or what have you. So facility is going to be a term you see, and you'll also see it interchangeable with site a lot of the time in the system. So, you know, bear with us with that. If those are some changes for you, I just want to acknowledge that change takes a little bit of time to adjust to. So let's move on to a little further into the introduction here, into orienting to the dashboard, how to navigate, and common icons. I want to just get your eyes on what this system looks like when you're moving through it. If you did take the account registration session this morning or any of the other ones that have already happened, you're going to find some of this very familiar because there is a logic to the system. So first, here is the most up-to-date public portal login. There is the register the account button. There's the public records button. Neither of those is our topic today. Our topic is like, let's get started. This is how you get into the system, get familiar with it. Once you put your username and your password in, the login button lights up. If you forget your password, that is here for you, that little extra link. So once you log in, and when you're on your dashboard, you will notice icons on the left-hand side, and you can click in order to expand those so that you see the descriptions next to each of them. But if you hover your mouse over them, the name of each of those icons will pop up, a little information bubble. So if I were to hover over this icon at the very bottom that looks like an ID badge, it will say my account or account information. And that tells me what that is. So these are quick links. They help to navigate to the most typical activities. This section above, submittals, shows pending and submitted applications. So this section, this is the header of this whole section that is here. There's nothing on the list right now for my submittals, and it shows the last 3 months, and you can toggle between some information, different versions, pending, sent. And the section below, permits and transaction history. So submittals, again, that's what you're either preparing or you have sent in. Permits and transaction history is what comes back from DEQ, and a record of what you've paid to DEQ, transaction history. This section shows, issued permits or rule authorizations. To the right, there is a list of new submittals. So, and little plus links. So you could actually click there to get something started. You could click the little information button, little I, to find out more about it, what it's about. When I'm showing you these screens, you're going to see this UAT in the lower right corner. And that is because we're in the what's called the user acceptance testing environment. It's basically the pre-production or training environment. So that's not quite the live system, but it looks very, very, very much like it. So this is the dashboard that gives you the lay of the land. You may also have submittals listed here as well. There's some information. There's announcement tab, there's correspondence tab. So when you get in there, you can check it out, look around. Navigation. So back at this page, you know how I have this red line around all these little icons. If I were to click here, these would expand. And what I would get is, now it was a very long list, so I broke it in half. So this is the top part on the left and the bottom part on the right. You would get a little list of these icons with explanations. Start a new submittal. Resume edits, track submittal status. They're pretty self-explanatory. That's the submittal section. Issuance, what are the permits and certificates, CPP compliance instruments, what have you. Utilities, public records, search public submittals, notices and permits. And then of course, my account. Now, some of these might look a little different for you because they're gonna reflect whatever type of work you're doing, whatever buttons you have clicked. But I believe that your account will be set up with all the options that you need. There's a little arrow at the lower right when that opens up. And that's a little toggle arrow where you can close that so you just see the little icons, or you can open it back up to see the whole descriptions. So that's the look and feel of that. And then these are some very, very common icons that you'll come across again and again. Loading, you'll see a pinwheel spin when the page is loading. This is a system that serves a lot of programs, and we're always keeping it up to date. There are routine improvements, and sometimes because we're in the thick of a project still, although the programs like UIC have already launched in the system, we're continuing with other programs that will be folded in. So occasionally there may be slight delays. So thanks for your patience in advance. But we try to address those absolutely as soon as possible. And if you notice something taking particularly long, you can contact the help desk. The save button is so important. Anytime you see it and you make a change, click it. Make sure you're saving your work. The pencil icon is to edit the selected submittal. The eyeball or the view icon is for viewing whatever the selected submittal is or what have you, to see more. And then the pending or submitted is to kind of toggle between what you're still working on and what you've already sent in. And there's a difference there, because if you've already sent it in and you're thinking, oh, wait, I need to change something, there's a request process for that. If it's pending, I believe that means you're still working on it. And Melissa, could you just validate that for me? Is that correct? Pending is what you have in your queue that you're working on, or
Yes.
if your consultant is working on it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Pending means it has not been submitted or it has been returned to you and waiting for further action.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. And then, of course, required. This is the little image you'll see next to any boxes that require information to be completed. So that's kind of the lay of the land. And now we'll go ahead and get started. And some of that will be familiar as we look through. So submittal process for underground injection control. The first step is to enter a submittal, and we'll walk through that. That is probably the biggest portion of this training. And then we move on to a little view of how to track that status to see how it's doing. And then what's involved in making changes. So go ahead and click the login. It lights up after you've entered your information. And again, here we are at the navigate from the dashboard to the new submittal. So we have the start submittal button. And we also have another way of starting the submittal. I think that the link on the left here is the easiest way, but you can also scroll through and select here, press the plus button to get there. Navigating from the dashboard again to the new submittal still. And once you have clicked the button to the left here, see how it's highlighted? That's the world I'm in, is going to a new submittal. So I could do search criteria to narrow down which submittal I would like to send in. The blue information box next to each of the submittals will give you more information about it. And if you're reading through it and you're like, yep, this is the one, click the plus button. I see there's a question here. Which account type gives you access to the new submittal? Excellent question, Nicole. So you can have access to it with either the consultant or the responsible official account type. The consultant account type is really going to depend, though, on how the responsible official you work with delegates to you. They would have to delegate to you facility they work with and submittal type. So if the submittal type has been delegated to a consultant, they'll see it as an option that they can search or select. And it looks like Melissa's also typing the answer. Once she types that in, I'll go ahead and read it out for the recording. Or Melissa, you could also. Yeah, there are frequently asked questions also listed on the, well, I guess I'm posting it today. The updated account registration guide will have new refreshed frequently asked questions that I think will be helpful. Okay, so Melissa says both the RO account and the consultants can get to a new submittal, but you must be linked to the submittal type by the RO if you are a consultant. Thanks, Melissa.
Basically, if you're a consultant and you can't see any of the new submittal types, it's because you need to be linked by your RO to that submittal type so you have access to it.
Yep.
So not sure if we've got a lot of consultants or if we've got a lot of ROs on the line, but just in case.
Yeah, actually, that would be a great question to ask. I see some additional folks joining us. Oh, hi, Annie. Glad to have you here. I am curious to know how many people are planning to sign up as consultants. We talked about that earlier at the training today. So if you are interested in a direct link, I can send you that after the meeting to the recording and to the account registration guidance. Just go ahead and email me by responding to the reminder for the registration for today. So we can do that. So we'll continue to move forward here. Classic logic of the system. You have menu bar across the top with steps along the way for your submittal. There's basic info, attachment, payment, review, submission. We'll walk through those. And let's see, we have some questions. So Tracy is wondering if she should be a consultant, he or she. Juliet, consultant. Okay. And I think these are answers to who is going to be what, have what kind of account. So Tracy, there's a really, really great guide on how to how to know which account to select. And we have a link to it on the stormwater information in the dropdown on the help page that I mentioned earlier. It's the fact sheet for account registration for stormwater, and it applies to UIC as well. We've also incorporated that information into the account registration guide. So I'll follow up with you afterwards to make sure that you have access to that. And I'll be available to help you figure out what you need to do if you need extra help. You can also just go right over to your DEQ online help at oregon.gov. Oh, I wonder. Okay. Another possibility is maybe Melissa or Derek could post that in the chat, a link to that account facts. So
No problem. I will go ahead and do that.
oh, that'd be great. Thank you, Melissa. It looks like there's something in the chat. My consultant, we are finding it frustrating to have all our clients make accounts when previously we started. Yes, there is some change to this. This is complex. So the consultant can still do all the preparation and all the readying of the information. The RO's role can simply be to review and certify. So we'll talk more about this as we go through. I'm going to keep moving on so that we can cover the content today. So we're in the basic info tab, and the idea here is to start by selecting the rule authorization type, because we selected a rule authorization permit. So select the type, and in this case, this is the drain stormwater from any surface. Complete all the required fields. As I said before, always click save before leaving the page. Again, basic info tab, we're still there. We just went through the first section, and we head down to the next one. Either select your facility or create new facility. In this case, it's select the facility. This would be the facilities associated with your account that appear here. If you do not have any facilities associated with your account, you won't see any here. And that means, perhaps that means create a new facility, but it may actually mean that if you know your account, your facility is here, going back to your account setup and making sure that you associated with any existing facilities that you needed to. Always save changes. So after the basic info and selecting which type of rule authorization and which facility, move on to attachment. And this is where any required attachments would be uploaded. And, okay, I'm just gonna make sure I'm covering the content that I want to. I'm also looking at our user guide. So something I want to mention here is that there is an underground injection control step-by-step user guide. It's a PDF document, and you can access that on the Your DEQ Online Help page. And this is what that follows along. So we're going to scroll down in that case. Okay, attachments are listed on the right-hand side of the navigation bar, and items with a red asterisk are required and should be uploaded to complete a submittal. Descriptions can be found below each of the attachment names, and following that is a list of acceptable document formats. Your DEQ Online does not accept formats that are not listed there, so be sure to look at that. Doc type, sitemap. Okay. Oh, I see there are more chat. Okay.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
So Juliet asked, what if your facility is not already in there and you need to create a facility? Would you have to go back and link yourself to the facility you created in order to move forward in the application? No, actually, you will not. Once you get into the application, if you could not find your facility, I encourage you all to go ahead and double check that it either exists or doesn't. If you know that you already have the facility in there because you're already registered for something, or you've already been rule authorized for something else, or you already have a UIC permit, that's great. Let us know if you can't find your facility so we can help you find it. But when you fill out your application, you'll be going through and it will ask you, it knows who you are. It'll ask you either to create a facility or to choose a facility. So if you choose the one that you already have, you're good to go. If not, you can create one, and it should link you as you're going through without a problem.
I'm going to go ahead and come back to that screen where you could see at the basic info page, facility information, select your facility or create new facility. So Melissa, I think we should talk here also about how a responsible official can link to a consultant, and that consultant can go ahead and initiate a submittal and create a new facility. But that also goes through a process of alignment in the process of the submittal. Is that right, Melissa? So if they're not already, if the responsible official is not already linked to that facility because it has yet to be created, and a consultant that they've delegated is starting a submittal, they need to make that decision. Is there a facility there? No. Well, I'm creating a facility, and they're able to do that. A consultant is able to do that, right?
Yes, we actually have it set up. As of this morning, I made sure everything was good to go because we were having some issues. But the way that it is set up is the RO can pick a submittal type. So rule authorization, a 1200U general stormwater UIC permit, things like that. And the facility is no longer required. So you can link your RO to your account with the submittal type and not need to pick the facility anymore. You still can, but you don't have to. So if your facility doesn't exist, you can still get your RO linked up and they can start the application and fill out the new facility information and then proceed from there.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. And I think that our questions are resolved for now. So as we move across the top here from one tab to the next, we've covered basic info, attachment, payment. This is where we're going to get into this a little bit because it's completely brand new. And let's see, we have another question. No, the consultant cannot create an account for the RO. So I recommend that anyone here with account registration questions, definitely check out the resources that are on your DEQ Online help. I know it's kind of nice to have that information before this training to know how this relates to your use, but I don't want to spend too much time on these questions because we cover them in other trainings. We do have this UIC submittal to get through, but I do want to say this, that the responsible official sets up their account, and it also involves identity verification. So that is one person per account that is verified with E-Verify, which is an electronic secure system, and they are responsible. So they need to go through that process to confirm who they are and to hold that responsibility. They can delegate their access or their functions to a consultant. They need to have those abilities and then they can share them. But a consultant can't take something to share. They can't pull it from the RO. So it does mean the RO needs to get that process started. That also means the consultant needs to go ahead and set up an account so that there's an email in the system that the RO can easily plug right in to search the consultant and link them to their account. And Melissa's typing an answer as well. Good question, Tracy. So we're going to move forward with payment. So for payments, and again, consultant and RO can both do this process. The only piece in this flow that is RO only is the fifth one, submission, and we'll talk about that. So for payments, there is a total that will be here, show up in the calculation, and there's a button that says pay amount due. You go ahead and click that to start the process. When you click that, you're presented with two choices. One is that ACH, the funny little acronym that it seems disconnected, but what it really means is electronic payment. So when you see it highlights automatic clearinghouse payment method, to the right, you see redirect to ePay. That's electronic payment. So you would select that, you would click to redirect to ePay. This opens the DEQ Gov Online payments page. It's a slightly different looking system that processes the payments. That's normal, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Upon returning to this page, because it cycles you back around, you would come back to this page and click Save, so that the payment work that you did in the Gov Online payments page is lodged into the system here. So you would click Save. So let's look at that. When you bump over to the Gov Online Financial Information Management System, this is what it looks like. It's a little different looking. It's kind of an older model. It doesn't have the modern features of those tabs, but it's pretty straightforward. You fill out the required fields, and so you would review your contact information. That gets populated over from your DEQ Online system so that you don't have to retype everything. You would review that, and then you would enter the bank account information. This is what's required here. And you can see a little guide on a check to say, okay, this is this information, this is that section of numbers, here's what you enter, and then click Continue. It'll take you over to the next page. The next page in the system is to take a moment to review. Now you have the information populated from your DEQ Online, but you also have the payment information that you entered, and of course, bank account number. Most of the numbers obscured, just the last few show there. The routing number is there. Of course, this is a secure payment system. And the confirmation email, all of this information you would review, and then you have terms and conditions to review. Once you review that, you click that you've accepted terms and conditions and click Confirm. Once you click the Confirm button, you'll see confirmation. This confirmation is something that you can print for your records. You'll have the acknowledged, see, here's the confirmation number here. You can click Print this page, and this will then show up in your DEQ Online as paid. So click to the Return to Home button, and you'll go back to the submittal in process and be able to continue on. But first, click Save. Always click Save when you see that button and you've made a change. So here we see that the payment is in. Okay. The lay of the land. We're also going to talk about what it looks like to pay by check. So if you have requested to pay amount due by mailing check, this little sign shows up when you click the Check by Mail button. Remember, this is where we checked ACH, and now we're clicking Check by Mail. Please make the check payable to, and you can see very clearly here who to make it payable to. Click here to confirm check by mail payment method. That is an extra acknowledgement to make sure that you know it's check by mail. So you would do this and then click Save. The other piece that I mentioned before is coming up in a sec. That is to print the submittal receipt and mail it together with the check. And we'll look at that after we get through this process. At this point, the review, you can look at this, check it over, generate the PDF and take a look at that before submitting. If any changes are needed, this is the time to do it, the best time to do it. We will talk about making changes after submittal, but this is a great time to make those changes. So if any are needed, you can navigate to those related tabs to make those changes. You can go back to attachment, you can go back to payment. If there's something that's required that hasn't been completed, you'll see it light up here on the menu bar. Again, always click Save. So this is when you're clicking on that review button. Let me go back. That little PDF square, if I were to click on that, it opens the PDF, the document that you can review, You can look through and see, does everything check out? Okay. Now we've moved on to the submittal tab, or the submission tab, I should say. There's a certification statement. So the responsible official reads through and clicks to certify. There's also the responsible official's security question and PIN number. Those were set up at the time of account registration. And when you have an account, everybody sets up security questions and PIN numbers, regardless of your account. But this is what pops up for ROs when it's time to certify and complete submission. So the security question will be one of the 5 that were established. The PIN number will be the PIN number. It will be the one. So you mark the acknowledgement, provide your security and PIN. Steps 1 and 2, activate this submittal button at the top, at the bottom to submit. Once all of this is, the security precautions are reviewed, the disclaimer, go ahead and click submit. And we get to submission confirmation. That's how you know it worked. So click submit, submission successful. Click the red print button to access your submittal receipt. And the check payment has to be mailed with that printed submittal receipt. Not mailing it to DEQ offices is really important. If you were to mail a physical check to the DEQ offices, there is a probably more drawn out process temporarily to make sure that we send it to the right place and it gets tied to the right account. But in the future, there may be a point in the future where we say, sorry, we got to send it back, because we have rules around how long we can hold a check before we deposit it. So we have set up this lockbox system because it goes directly to the bank. And it actually is the fastest way to pay by a physical check, because it goes directly to the bank. They scan it, they deposit it. It's quicker than going through the DEQ office. So there's a real advantage to that too. This is what the submittal receipt looks like. So you can see you've already reviewed this before you clicked submittal. There's the form detail, there's payment information, balance due, and you can see if you've selected to pay by check. See, we have payment method here listed across. DEQ Financial Services, there's a lockbox code, there's the PO box. You enter that information, and that is where you send the check. Okay, so any questions about payments before we go to track status? Okay. So you can track your submittal status. This is super helpful. I believe the consultant and the RO can both track the submittal status. When you're at submitted submittals, you can track submittal status by clicking that button. Really, this is that same menu that we saw before, all those other functions. So even if you're at your dashboard, you're looking at this menu, you can hover over to see track submittal. Once you click that, you'll go to the next page. You can also, when you see the submittal itself, you can go to the eyeball to go ahead and click and view that status. Here we are, submittal summary. So submitted submittal, double word, but what it means is this is a submittal that has been certified, completed, and sent in. So it's a submitted submittal. The submittal summary is the first tab. And what you can see here is the payment that was made, the progress so far, the submittal summary. And there's information here such as it's environmental, water quality. This was a test one, so you can see that name of it there. There is the date that it was submitted. And on the right-hand side for the information, you see site information, you see review flow information. This is where you can track what stage the submittal is in. So application received, that has been received. once you went ahead and clicked submit, or the RO clicked submit. Completeness review. That is where a DEQ staff member reviews it to make sure everything's in order and there's nothing missing in addition to what the forms would have required. And actually, with this new electronic system, we've designed it so that it is actually really hard for it not to be complete. It's built to be as complete as possible to save you time, to help staff expedite. And then we get to the next stage. Once it moves through the process, you'll be able to see how it has had a completed application received, completed completeness review. Okay, I want to go back just a second, because the green means these are completed. And I'm sorry to backtrack, but application received means that that is what's in progress. Completeness review, if it is showing up, but it has no filler color, it hasn't been done yet, but it tells you what's next. So this is in progress if it's yellow, and if it's green, it's been completed. If the box is white or does not have color in it, then it's the next step to look forward to. Just wanted to clarify that. And so if we progress to this next view of the review flow, you can see that it's gone through all the processes and it's green and complete. It's done, issue permit, which means you can go and look at the permit. So submittal summary, attachment, excuse me, and then issuance. And I mentioned this earlier, submittals are what DEQ receives, issuances are what DEQ produces back to the customer. Here we have the issuance. You can see issued, document number, the date, the PDF. Click the PDF link, and that allows you to open and view and also download the permit document. When you do that, what you'll see on your browser is that it's downloading on a typical browser. So you can go ahead and click that arrow and open the folder and what have you. I see a question. Will historical documents, such as permits, RAs, annual filings, be available to download for a facility in the future? And my understanding is that if they were processed in this new system, they will be available in this new system. If they were processed before we launched the system, that's a question I need to turn to Melissa for. I'm not sure what's been migrated into the system, Melissa. Maybe you can help me answer what people can expect in terms of historical documents, how far back they would be able to look and see something in this system.
So that's going to be a program by program basis, just because of the way that we've had things come in the past. Some things are electronic, some things are in paper. We have files, we have electronic files, we have stuff with the archives. So it really is up to the programs individually. Currently, water quality does not have any projects going on to move historical documents in. We still have them all. We just, the return on our investment for putting them in, we haven't decided is high enough to do it yet. So if you are looking for something historical, though, we still have public records requests. You'll still be able to request it. We can still get it for you. We just currently are not planning on moving anything into the system from prior to the go live date.
Right. And over time, as more activity happens in this system, this becomes the system to look at for the most current, but also more recent activity. But that will take some time because we're just now launching it. So thanks for that question and thanks for that answer. Here we have the PDF we talked about. Oh, I want to go back just a second. So what you'll also see here on the submitted submittal is email history, payment, which is going to show you what happened with the payment, and correspondence. So email history and correspondence are two of the ways that folks connect with DEQ staff. With either of these, Melissa, maybe you can speak to the difference between the two of them. What email history is used for, and then what correspondence is used for, what people can expect.
So an email history is anything that has come out of the system and is sent to you. So we have a set of automatic emails that come out when you have an issuance that, or not an issuance, but a application that goes in. We have one that says it's been submitted. We have one that has information if you have your application returned. And so it's called a send back. So those send backs will have an email associated with them. Inspections, enforcements, and violations can all have emails. And so those, anything that comes that's system generated, there will be a copy of it in the email history, as well as what the RO received in their personal email that they have on file. The correspondence is meant for communication directly back and forth with the agency. It's kind of like a chat, like a Teams chat or a instant messenger, if you will. So you can send us a message. We'll get a notification that says that we have a response, a comment, a question, whatever it is, and then we'll send back a response. And that way it keeps it all together in one package. The emails that you receive, you won't be able to reply to us from those emails, but the correspondence, we can reply directly back and forth to each other to communicate whatever it is. So, hey, I have a quick question about your submittal. Hey, I see you put this attachment on, it wasn't the right one. We're going to need a different one. I'm going to send it back to you. Things like that, we can communicate within the system instead of having to do it in 6 different places and then try to find, hey, where'd that email go? This will keep everything in a nice tight bundle for everyone to be able to reference.
Right. And if, let's say somebody wins the lottery and goes on an amazing, all expenses paid vacation to Hawaii, we have them covered, because if someone steps in to cover, they can tune into that correspondence and continue to assist you and move forward with your submittal. You know, best case scenario, the lottery ticket. So it does add better correspondence and more transparent for us as DEQ staff, but also for you as public users of this system to be able to have access to that. So let's move on then. So this looks like a larger section of the training, but it's actually pretty brief. All changes require a request to get them initiated. So if you would like to make a correction, let's say you reviewed the submittal, it was sent in, and you're like, oh, oops, there was one thing that needed to change. If you need a correction, you would initiate that by making a request. Same with a revision. If you need to withdraw, amend, name change, transfer submittals to a new RO, let's say, or termination of one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward and show you what that looks like to get that started. When you're in that submittal summary, in the submitted submittals, submittal summary has the case review summary. It has that information. At the bottom, you would see send the request for revision. And actually, I'm seeing here that the little icon to the left here that's in blue, this is the icon that would have been clicked within that submittal summary, I believe. Send the request for revision, withdraw, amend to the administrator. So what this does is you go ahead and click and send the request reason, and then someone on the DEQ end picks that up and initiates that process, reviews that, and takes the appropriate action. What you'll also see is if you go to, now, Melissa, I'm not sure why this screen is here. Isn't this our internal view, permit license certification? Or is this if they search?
This is exactly what it looks like on the external view as well.
Oh.
The internal view, the only difference is the internal view has a little water quality symbol because we're in the water quality portion, and
Okay.
it's blue at the top.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, then that makes sense. So this is where if you're searching submittals and you go to save your, you go ahead and enter your search query, right? Your search criteria. You can see here at the very top of that search criteria column that someone wanted something issued and they had other selections. If you're seeing your permit here listed and you hover over these icons, they have all these different meanings. We talked about the eyeball icon. You know what a PDF icon looks like. When you hover over the ellipsis, the 3 dots, additional icons open up. Now, there are just so many icons here. We really wanted to take a minute to talk about them. When you hover over them, the words that you see in the table at the top of this screen are what will pop up next to each one of them as you hover. So that's a way to navigate them, to know what it is you'd be clicking next. So I believe this would be, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, this would be after you send the request, and this shows up in your folder for it's available. The DEQ staff make it available for you to make the changes that you need to, whatever type of change it is. And
So
then
this is actually after the rule authorization or the permit or the certification, whatever it is, has been issued to you. This is to make changes to that registration, permit, certificate, whatever it is. So this is how you would request to make those changes instead of turning in a new application from the new submittals area.
Right. And it's not like DEQ staff need to do anything for a public user to get to this page and to find this, right? They can go ahead and initiate this.
As soon as we have your permit or rule authorization issued, it will show up right there. The only thing that might be a little bit iffy is just getting everyone attached to all the right accounts at the beginning. So if you're having trouble finding your permit once you got your account set up and you are attached to your facility and you've claimed that you're the RO of the particular facility, if your permits and certificates and rule authorizations aren't showing up, just go ahead and send in a ticket to our help desk and we'll make sure to get you sorted out. There's probably just a few settings in the background we need to adjust. So
Great. So that brings us to the end of all of those steps that we reviewed. That was introduction to the system, how to move forward with a UIC submittal, and how to track and then also make changes, whether changes to the submittal, which is what we first talked about, or the issued permit, any request for changes and adjustments. This page, the Your DEQ Online help page, is what I've been referring to. When you type in yourdeqonline.oregon.gov, it takes you to this page, and you can see that there are bars at the bottom below training. If you click on any of those, it'll open up information. So here we have underground injection control. There are instructional guides, and there's also the link to the registration page. This is really helpful for folks who had questions about what to, about any kind of account setup. That'll be the place to go. And then upcoming training. So for instance, today's training is listed here. That will be replaced by the recording from today. There's also the portal login. There's information on how to contact the help desk. And there's even a little link to how to search public records. Because this project is still in process with other programs, we will continue to list out the programs that are live in the system here. And at a certain point, we'll make a change to group the training a little differently to make it as easy as possible for navigation. And if you have questions about how to find other training, you can always contact us. Let's see, I see a question up here. Tracy has a question. Let's see. And this looks like it's a question for Melissa. So we are at 2:29. We have another, I think our training is scheduled for 1 hour. It may be scheduled for the full 2, but I believe it's 1 hour. So we can open things up to Q&A as people would like to stay on. But for a second, I'd just like to say thanks to everybody who joined us today. This recording will be posted online. And please continue to contact us if you have questions or help. And now we'll shift into the Q&A session portion of this session for anyone who would like to stay on and ask questions. So, Melissa, do you see the question by Tracy? Do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, so as far as requiring hard copies, if they can be uploaded, then we don't need hard copies. That's something though that Derek's going to have to talk to you about specifically. The size for the submittal right now is 20 megabytes, but we're going to be moving that up as soon as we figure out what we're moving it up to. We can take zip files, and if you're still having a problem, you let us know, and then we will figure out what we can do. So it's unfortunately, you know, every group is different, every facility is different. Obviously, with 10,000 UICs, we've got quite a bit of data there to collect. So just, you know, keep talking with Derek about it, keep talking with our help desk about it. We will be addressing it shortly for upping the file size, but past that, Derek's going to have to answer exactly what they want you to do.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, it's written into those individual reports that they have to submit a hard copy, unfortunately. So to be in compliance, I still did plan to ask for hard copies. I wish I didn't have to, but it's written into the permit. I would have no problem waiving that, but I'm not sure I can. But yeah, I was starting to tell individual permit holders that they do need to submit through your DEQ online their annual reports. So yeah, it's obviously something we'll have to work out, is making sure that YDO can handle the file size one way or another, because that's going to come up with every single one.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. And, you know, this change to your DEQ online is a foundational effort for DEQ to modernize. We will continue to look at how we can reduce paper usage, make all of this easier for everyone involved, so that we don't have obstacles to all of the compliance that we need to keep up with. So, you know, bear with us as we start this first foundational modernization effort, but we will always be looking to how do we improve that? How do we handle those larger file sizes? How do we move away from the requirements so that we can have that permission to do electronic documents that don't require a paper copy? So we'll still look into it, but yes, be in touch with Derek about it if you continue to have questions, and thanks, Derek, for that answer. Juliet has a question. When I click the PDF button on my issued permits, it brings me to a page that says the file does not appear to have any style information associated with it, and then it just says failed. Am I able to see my issued permits another way? Melissa, I don't know if you want to take that. Okay.
I was just trying to unmute. I was like, where's the button? I've got like 12 screens open right now. It's just insanity over here. So Juliet, the issue you're having is that if you have an older issuance, an older permit, an older rule authorization, an older certification of some sort, whatever the case is, all of those are not uploaded into the system. We have not gone back and done that because we have thousands of permits that we have open right now just in water quality. Stormwater alone has, you know, several thousand. I couldn't tell you how many UIC rule authorizations there are right off the top of my head, but there are a lot. So again, historical items we will not have on the system where you can click the button. But if it is something that we have issued since you've been in the system, then you should have a file. So if you're getting that message, then you're going to need to send in a ticket to our help desk so you can tell us exactly which permit it is. And then we will go ahead and take a look and see what didn't get linked properly.
So in this case, if it was issued after September 30th, it would fall into that category of an issue to send to the help desk. But if it was before September 30th, then they would go through another process to get access to that permit. Is that right?
If So if it is before September 30th, then what you would do is you could do a public records request and we can give you a copy of that permit.
Great. And Tracy has a comment here. Thanks, Derek and Melissa. I'll plan to submit everything through YDO and see how it goes. I think I'm a consultant because I don't sign, but I do a lot of the work. Yes, thank you, Tracy. And then Julie says, gotcha, thank you very much. Great, we have another question. Nicole has a question. For the email and correspondence tabs, does this mean that emailing the reviewer directly through, say, Outlook won't be an option because all replies will be no reply? Interesting. I think that, go ahead, Melissa.
So emails coming out of the system that are the automatic emails, those are a no reply. We don't take replies that way because it doesn't have we don't have a central way of putting them into the right spot. So if the program sends you an email in Outlook, you can reply that way, that's fine. But in the correspondence tab, you can reply in the system. So you can go back and forth within that correspondence tab as many times as you like to get all of the information done. What will happen though is that correspondence, when you get a new one, you're going to get an email that pings you and says, hey, you have a new message in the system. So then you would go in the system and go to your application and find the correspondence tab and say, oh, there's my new message. So you can look at your message and see what's going on.
Great. Yeah, so Outlook will still work the same way. If you're sending an Outlook message to a DEQ staff member, they're going to get it in their email and they'll be able to respond. What's nice about using the correspondence tab instead for that kind of chat exchange is that it's right there in the system where the submittal is, where you can see it, where your RO can see it, where staff can see it, and it's nice and transparent. That's actually a really good thing. But yes, Outlook will still operate the same way that it does now. Thank you for that question. Any other questions coming up for people? And I'll give it a little second here in case something percolates. I'm not seeing other questions. Had some great questions today. Does anybody want to reopen any account decision questions? Because I'm certainly happy to help with that as well. Oh, I see Sonia has a question. So we have developers send us a copy of DEQ approval for residential systems. Will they be able to download the approval to send to us? Do you have an answer for that, Melissa? If the developer is a consultant in the system, they would have access to it.
I think I need to bring Derek in on this. What is the approval? Or if you can let Sonia just unmute her so she can speak.
Oh, yeah,
either way.
I'm going to go over to that allow to talk. There we go. So Sonia, do you want to go ahead and voice your question?
Sure. We have for rule authorized systems, we require like dry wells, infiltration galleries, infiltration trenches. We require developers to apply for a approval from you and then to send us a copy of that approval so that we know that they're registered. With this system, I'm sure they would have to sign up, but would they be able to then download the approval and then send it to us? Currently, they send us an email.
So they can actually go ahead and download that approval once we've put it in the system, the new ones. The other thing is that actually, if you have a general public account, they will be posted when we have a permit issuance or a rule authorization issuance. And what Juliet was asking about before that she couldn't see, that's exactly where you would be to go ahead and look at it. So there's a spot in the account where you can look at the public records. And so anyone can go in, and anything that we've posted as a public record in the system, you can look at. Obviously, everything is public record, but what we do is we have certain things that are posted in the system and other things you'll have to ask for just because it's not loaded into the system yet.
So I think that answers your question that yes, they can access, if they have an account, they can access what they need to for you, but also if it is in the submittals and permits sections, either of those in the public record section of the system, they'd be able to get it there and send it to you, or you'd be able to see it there. Great question, really good. Yeah, so I see another question. Do I need to have the RO created an account before I can link to our UIC facility? If an RO is going to set you up as a consultant, yes, then the RO needs to set up their account. You need to set up your account, and then they link to your account. So that does need to happen if you are a consultant. Before you can link to your UIC facility. I see. So that's actually, Melissa, you're about to answer that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so consultants cannot link themselves to facilities or submittal types. They have to be linked by the RO. So yes, you can have an account, you can be in there. There are things you can do in the system, but you cannot get to those submittals until you've gone ahead and had the RO link you to their account with the submittal type and possibly the facility, depending on what type of submittal it is.
Great. Good question, Tracy. Okay.
Hey, Melissa, I think what kind of the consultants are saying is that a lot of times they'll be very familiar with creating accounts and our YDO and everything, but they may have an RO that only has to do it once. I'm just wondering if in this age of screen sharing, if you've had anyone suggest or actually screen share so that the consultant can walk the RO through it in real time, because I can completely understand it. It could be confusing for the first and only time for an RO to do this. So I'm wondering if that might be a solution for consultants to actually walk the RO through the steps and say, click here, sign this, now put in your password, I won't look, because I think what I'm hearing is it's understandably kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. So the way that it ends up working out is that Margaret, when she has some of the other sessions she does that are not specific to UIC or stormwater, she actually has just training sessions that are specific to how to set up your account, and that does cover how to link an RO. So we have recordings of that online, and so those are something that we can point anyone who needs help towards. Our help desk is also available to help out, and if that's the case, we could always do a special session to just record those pieces and put that by itself online as well.
Yeah, we also have there is like a PDF document that walks through the steps as well. That's a companion to the recorded training. So if they don't want to watch a recording, they can look at that document and walk through it as well. So those resources are available. Plus we have the live webinars will be continuing on a routine basis. So consultants can send their ROs, recommend that their ROs register for training. They can send them a link to the account registration page. If they normally do in this time of COVID where everybody's kind of telecommuting as much as possible, there may be some tools they already use to kind of help connect with their customers, with their ROs, and in those professional relationships to kind of show people what they're doing, walk through processes. But for sure, the training materials are there for account registration, and they focus heavily on what the RO needs to do, because that's the account that actually needs to do the most setting up. And understandably, there's some concern by consultants that their ROs will need to get over that learning curve. You know, that's understandable. So we do try to offer a lot of those trainings and make those available.
Okay, thanks, you guys.
Good point, though, Derek. Thank you. See that there's another question here. Martha has a question. A session on how to link sites and programs for the RO and how to give the consultant that access would be great. The ROs don't want to spend the time to review the entire training session. Ooh, that's really good feedback, Martha. You know, I think that is the kind of thing that a quick reference for ROs so that they can do those pieces that they'll want to do as easily as possible. So thank you for that suggestion. That's really helpful. Making note of it. Let's see. Any other questions as we begin to wind this down? I captured that note. I don't see any other questions. Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's a thanks. Well, thanks, Tracy. So let's see. I think that we're all set here for now, and we'll have a recording that we post for the training for the UIC submittals. And I'll also recommend that you check out the account registration recording and document if that's going to be helpful for you to get an idea of what that's all about. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks for your patience and your excellent questions as you walk through this and work on having it adapting to this big change. It is a big change. So thanks everyone. Have a great day and contact us as needed for help.